right. All right, beautiful people. Top of the day. We are live on both places, Facebook and YouTube. Okay. Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. Sorry for the few minute tardiness. I forgot to do anything all these days. Hold on. Okay. Happy Sunday, everybody. Shalom, Demi Shalom. It is June the 13th, 2021, day 179 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 848, 848. Today, y'all, we're reading Esther 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to hop back over to Fossilized Customs on page 136. I believe that was a page. I missed it yesterday. Yeah, 136. We started the gospel portion. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the Shema real quick. I hope you guys enjoyed your rest. Okay. All right, y'all. Remember, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as YAHUAH, the Elohim of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, YAHUAH, our mighty one, he is one, and you shall love YAHUAH, your Elohim, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And YAHUAH commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear YAHUAH, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before YAHUAH, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started. Hop right on over here to Esther chapter 7 today, y'all. Yeah. Hold on, y'all. We definitely read this. Okay. Sorry, y'all. We started 8 because we read 7. We read an extra chapter yesterday. So we're going to do 8, 9, and 10. I forgot to make that correction. All right. Okay, y'all. All right, y'all. Esther chapter 8. On that same day, King Xerxes gave the property of Haman, the enemy of the Hebrews, to Queen Esther. Then Mordecai was brought before the king, for Esther had told the king how they were related. The king took off his signet ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed Mordecai to be in charge of Haman's property. Then Esther went in again before the king, falling down at his feet and begging him with tears to stop the evil plot devised by Haman the Agagite against the Hebrews. Again, the king held out the gold scepter to Esther, She rose and stood before him. Esther said, "If it please the king, and if I have found favor with him, and if he thinks it is right, and if I am pleasing to him, let there be a decree that reverses the orders of Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, who ordered that the Hebrews throughout all the king's provinces should be destroyed. For how can I endure to see my people and my family slaughtered and destroyed?" Then King Xerxes said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Hebrew, "I have given Esther the property of Haman, and he has been impaled on a pole because he tried to destroy the Hebrews. Now go ahead and send a message to the Hebrews in the king's name, telling them whatever you want, and seal it with the king's signet ring. But remember that whatever has already been written in the king's name and sealed with his signet ring, it can never be revoked." So on June 25th, the king's secretaries were summoned, and a decree was written exactly as Mordecai dictated. It was sent to the Hebrews and to the highest officials and governors and the nobles of all the 127 provinces stretching from India to Ethiopia. The decree was written in the scripts and languages of all the peoples of the empire, including that of the Hebrews. The decree was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. Mordecai sent the dispatches by swift messengers who rode fast horses, especially bred for the king's service. Alicia, that would be a no to you. I saw your text come through. Natasha, hey girl, hey, shalom, Jatina, morning. The king's decree gave the Hebrews in every city authority to unite to defend their lives. They were allowed to kill, slaughter, and annihilate anyone of any nationality or province who might attack them or their children and wives, and to take the property of their enemies. The day chosen for this event throughout all the provinces of King Xerxes was March 7th of the next year. Shayla, hey girl, hey. A copy of this decree was to be issued as a law in every province and proclaimed to all people so that the Hebrews would be ready to take revenge on their enemies on the appointed day. So urged on by the king's command, the messengers rode out swiftly on fast horses, bred for the king's service. The same decree was also proclaimed in the fortress of Susa. Then Mordecai left the king's presence, wearing the royal robe of blue and white, the great crown of gold, and an outer cloak of fine linen and purple. And the people of Susa celebrated the new decree. The Hebrews were filled with joy and gladness, were honored. The Hebrews were filled with joy and gladness, I'm reading it too fast. Okay. The Hebrews were filled with joy and gladness and were honored everywhere. In the province and city, wherever the king's decree arrived, the Hebrews rejoiced and a great celebration and declared. Oh, okay. I missed the word. I'm sorry. I be reading too fast sometimes. I'll be skipping words and stuff. In every province and city, wherever the king's decree arrived, the Hebrews rejoiced and had a great celebration and declared a public festival and holiday. And many of the people of the land became Hebrews themselves, for they feared what the Hebrews might do to them. Christy, hey girl, hey. Okay, y'all. Esther chapter 9. So on March 7th, the two decrees of the king were put into effect. On that day, the enemies of the Hebrews had hoped to overpower them, but quite the opposite happened. It was the Hebrews who overpowered their enemies. The Hebrews gathered in cities throughout all the king's provinces to attack anyone who tried to harm them, but no one could make a stand against them, for everyone was afraid of them. And all the nobles of the provinces, the highest officers, the governors, and the royal officials helped the Hebrews for fear of Mordecai. For Mordecai had been promoted in the king's palace, and his fame spread throughout all the provinces as he became more and more powerful. So the Hebrews went ahead on the appointed day and struck down their enemies with the sword. They killed and annihilated their enemies and did as they pleased with those who hated them. In the fortress of Susa itself, the Hebrews killed 500 men. They also killed Parishandatha, Dalphon, Aspatha, Poratha, Adiah, Aridatha, Paramatsha, Arisai, Aridai, and Vaizatha, the 10 sons of Haman, son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Hebrews, but they did not take any plunder. That very day, when the king was informed of the number of people killed in the fortress of Susa, he called for Queen Esther. He said, "The Hebrews have killed 500 men in the fortress of Susa alone, as well as Haman's 10 sons. If they have done that here, what has happened in the rest of the provinces? But now, what more do you want? It will be granted to you. Tell me, and I will do it." Esther responded, "If it please the king, give the Hebrews in Susa permission to do again tomorrow as they have done today, and let the bodies of Haman's 10 sons be impaled on the pole." So the king agreed, and the decree was announced in Susa, and they impaled the bodies of Haman's 10 sons. Then the Hebrews at Susa gathered together on March 8th and killed 300 more men, and again they took no plunder. Meanwhile, the other Hebrews throughout the king's provinces had gathered together to defend their lives. They gained relief from all their enemies, killing 75,000 of those who hated them, but they did not take any plunder. This was done throughout the provinces on March 7th, and on March 8th they rested, celebrating their victory with a day of feasting and gladness. The Hebrews at Susa killed their enemies on March 7th and again on March 8th, and then rested on March 9th, making that their day of feasting and gladness. So to this day, rural Hebrews living in remote villages celebrate an annual festival and holiday on the appointed day in late winter, when they rejoice and send gifts of food to each other. Mordecai recorded these events and sent letters to the Hebrews near and far throughout all the provinces of King Xerxes, calling on them to celebrate an annual festival on these 2 days. He told them to celebrate these days with feasting and gladness by giving gifts of food to each other and presents to the poor. This would commemorate a time when the Hebrews gained relief from their enemies, when their sorrow was turned into gladness and their mourning into joy. So the Hebrews accepted Mordecai's proposal and adopted this annual custom. Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Hebrews, had plotted to crush and destroy them on that date, determined by casting lots. The lots were called Purim. But when Esther came before the king, he issued a decree causing Haman's evil plot to backfire, and Haman and his sons were impaled on a sharpened pole. That is why this celebration is called Purim, because it is the ancient word for casting lots. Because of Mordecai's letter and because of what they had experienced, the Hebrews throughout the realm agreed to inaugurate this tradition and to pass it on to their descendants and to all who became Hebrews. They declared that they would never fail to celebrate these 2 prescribed days at the appointed time each year. These days would be remembered and kept from generation to generation and celebrated by every family throughout the provinces and cities of the empire. This festival of Purim would never cease to be celebrated among the Hebrews, nor would the memory of what happened ever die out among their descendants. Then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, along with Mordecai the Hebrew, wrote another letter putting the queen's full authority behind Mordecai's letter to establish the festival of Purim. Letters wishing peace and security were sent to all the Hebrews throughout the 127 provinces of the empire of Xerxes. These letters established the festival of Purim, an annual celebration of these days at the appointed time, decreed by both Mordecai, the Hebrew, and Queen Esther. The people decided to observe this festival just as they had decided for themselves and their descendants to establish the times of fasting and mourning. So the command of Esther confirmed the practices of Purim, and it was all written down in the records. And notice it was Esther who commanded this one, not Yah. Okay, the last chapter of Esther, which is only, what is this, 3 verses, will be the last chapter for today. And the last chapter of this book, but what we're going to do tomorrow, we're going to actually read the book of Esther in the Apocrypha, which is another 12 chapters. But those 12 chapters actually comprise all of this, but a little bit more detail. King Xerxes imposed a tribute throughout his empire, even to the distant coastlands. His great achievements and the full account of the greatness of Mordecai, whom the king had promoted, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Media and Persia. Mordecai, the Hebrew, became the prime minister with authority next to that of King Xerxes himself. He was very great among the Hebrews, who held him in high esteem because he continued to work for the good of his people and to speak up for the welfare of all their descendants. And that is it right here for today, y'all. Let's go ahead and hop over to Fossilized Customs. That was Esther 8, 9, and 10. So we pick up where we left off yesterday, y'all. On page 136. Yeah, 136. And it's the second paragraph, and the heading is Gospel. Okay. The word gospel is Old English. It's really two words crammed together. God plus spell, G-O-D plus spell, S-P-E-L. We have already seen that the Teutonic Celts worshiped the sun with the word God, and it was a proper name. It was used because it was already a familiar word to them, coming from the Greek's translation. The Greeks used theos instead of Elohim because they were already familiar with their old word also. The Greeks called Zeus Theos, and their letter theta was originally a circle with a dot in the center representing the sun running across the sky. They call all their deities by the title Theos. Some scholars believe that using God and Theos refer to YAHUAH is a prophesied abomination of desolation. Hold on. Okay, let me read that again. Some scholars believe that using God and Theos to refer to YAHUAH is the prophesied abomination of desolation. Pillars of jealousy or steeples, Sunday calling Yahusha, Jesus, Easter, and more yet to be exposed follow in that line of thought. The second part of the word gospel, spell S-P-E-L, is also Celtic in origin. It means incantation, speech, spell, news, message, or report. It is the spell spoken to others. The Hebrew word for gospel is besorah. In 1948 CE, A.W. Tozer wrote the following words, underscoring how we can become swept up in mindless devotion by imitating others. Christian literature, to be accepted and approved by the evangelical leaders of our times, must follow very closely the same train of thought, a kind of party line from which it is scarcely safe to depart. A half century of this in America has made us smug and content. We imitate each other with slavish devotion, and our most strenuous efforts are put forth to try and say the same thing that everyone around us is saying. The true gospel is virtually unknown by most people on earth today, yet collections to spread the gospel are being donated to men who don't know what it is. It's all wasted because, like cancer researchers, they stumble in great darkness. The original followers of Yahusha carried its free message, but it died out on the surface with the last of the Nazarene before the 4th century. The writings reveal that it is a secret and a mystery, and one day be revealed just before the end of men's kingdoms. It is directed only for the understanding of those whose names are written in the scroll of remembrance, sealed with 7 seals. These are the bride, and it says of Mashiach, but we know that's the bride of Yah, right? Which Yah is the Mashiach, right? Not to be confused with a second person. Yahuwah said, don't combine me with anybody, right? So we got to always keep that in mind, y'all. I'm going to keep making these corrections. Okay. The wedding betrothal occurred at Sinai when the children of Yasharal listened to the voice of the groom and agreed to obey him. other sheep, not of this fold, and it has in parentheses, Gentiles, will also take the name of the groom. We'll discuss this in greater detail here, which we know that's true because remember, he talks about the sojourner and a stranger among us, those who are going to decide to come among us and also put away all the other gods that they worship and worship Yahuwah alone, right? Okay. The word gospel is one of many words we have inherited from dead translators that has taken on a kind of life of its own. Even encyclopedias admit that it is a bit fuzzy. Scholars accept the term, but both what it is and how the term came into use are not clearly understood. The word's meaning and use is the result of our imitating each other for centuries or are attempting to say the same thing everyone around us is saying. People who want to defend the altered names and other words they are conditioned to use by imitation, sometimes will say, well, I speak English and not some foreign language. English is like a wide river with many other languages flowing into it. Gospel is Celtic. Evangelical is Greek from euangelon. I think I pronounced that right. Maybe. I could have screwed it up. It's Euangelon, euangelon, meaning message or report. You can see the word angel in euangelon, giving it the meaning of message. It became the Latin word evangelum. The V letter is the Latin shape for our letter U. You can see the word angel in both, which simply means messenger. Epistle is Greek for letter. Many words we think of as English are really Celtic, Latin, Greek, French, Hebrew, or Aboriginal tongues spoken by the natives of an area prior to English settlers. Rivers, states, and countries are often named by foreign terms. They're not English, but our familiarity with them causes us to believe they are. When Yahushua was in the congregation or synagogue at Luke 4 and read from the Tanakh, he read aloud in Hebrew the words of Isaiah 61. He told them that this prophecy had been fulfilled in their ears. We should go back and read Isaiah 61, right? Because we would know. Matter of fact, let's pause real quick and let's read Isaiah 61. See, here's something right here, what we're about to do. This is what people, a lot of times, they don't do. They'll keep reading and they may check real quick and they'll check like one verse. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it does say this. But let's read it in context. Let's pause right here and let's go to Isaiah 61. Let's see what it says. Oh, okay. Uh-oh. Okay. Sorry, I had to adjust the screen. Okay. So Isaiah 61 reads as follows. And everybody, when you start hearing it, if you didn't recognize, okay, what's Isaiah 61? When you hear it, you're gonna recognize it because you hear it a lot in church. It's good news for the oppressed. Listen. You gotta read it all in context, right? Hold on, let's say right here it says, when Yahushua was in a congregation synagogue at Luke 4 and read from the Tanakh, he read aloud in Hebrew the words of Isaiah 61. He told them that this prophecy had been fulfilled in their ears. He announced the fulfillment of the prophecy of the awaited Mashiach as his listeners comprehended. He proclaimed the acceptable year of Yahuwah, known as the year of Jubilee. Every 50th year, native-born Hebrews are to be freed, and land is to be returned to their heirs according to their tribes. He was also proclaiming the gospel, the announcement that the reign of Yahuwah had come into their midst. Listen. Now, let me read this a little bit more before we read that. It says, he was also proclaiming the gospel, the announcement that the reign of Yahuwah had come into their midst. If you read all of Isaiah 61 and 62, as he probably did, you will discover that it promises a day when the bridegroom will rejoice over his bride. At Matthew 11:5, where this passage of Isaiah is being quoted, the word gospel appears in our translation from the original Hebrew word basar, meaning tidings, message, report, or news. Now, let's go back and let's actually read Isaiah 61. We may actually need to read 62 just to make sure we got it, right? Okay. So Isaiah 61 is news for the oppressed. But let me kind of go. Let me look at 60, see what the title of this one was before. Make sure. Okay. All right. So if you start actually at 60, right? Because 60 is going to flow right into 61. Isaiah chapter 60 talks about the future of Jerusalem and what she's going to look like when beautiful Israel returns to her land, right? Okay, so read 60. Oh, I should just read it. No, let's just read it, y'all. What time we at? Hold on. I gotta read it. Now I gotta backtrack just to make sure we're at 25 minutes. Okay. Here's what I'm talking about when we keep things in complete context. So we're gonna pause right here and we're gonna read this. We're gonna start at Isaiah 60. All right, listen. It's entitled Future Glory for Jerusalem. Arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all to see, for the glory of Yahuwah rises to shine upon you. Darkness as black as night covers all the nations of the earth, but the glory of Yahuwah rises and appears over you. All nations will come to your light. Mighty kings will come to see your radiance. Look and see, for everyone is coming home. Your sons are coming from distant lands. Your little daughters will be carried home. Your eyes will shine and your heart will thrill with joy. For the merchants from around the world will come to you. They will bring you the wealth of many lands. Vast caravans of camels will converge on you, the camels of Midian and Ephah. So remember, this is talking about the glory of Jerusalem. It says, what did it just say? It said, your sons and daughters are coming home. Who is that talking about? It's talking about us who have been scattered to the four corners of the earth. And as we come back, all the wealth of the world is going to be brought to us, because the world is going to realize all this time we have been killing these people, murdering them in the streets, throwing their men and women in jails. And these are the people of Yah. The nations are they're gonna reel in terror, and they're gonna try to make it right. They're bringing everything that we've been stolen forever from y'all. We bringing it to y'all. Everything. What do you want? Listen, verse 4. I'll go back up. Look and see, for everyone is coming home. Your sons are coming from distant lands. Now while we're reading this, let's also keep in mind what JC was telling them back here. No matter what you name them, Yahusha, Yeshua, YAHUAH, what I was just trying to think of all the names. What he said here, he said, this is being fulfilled in your ears, right? And I even want you to think about this now. Has this happened yet? How could this have been fulfilled, right? So y'all got to think about all this stuff in context before you try to start defending the lie, because this is what you truly believe. We're not saying that you're bad because you didn't believe the lie. You just have to really decipher truth from error. We're not telling you to throw away everything, but some of this leaven, get rid of it so you can see the truth and put it all together so you can walk straight, right? And a lot of us are still kind of walking crooked lines because we're still mixing truth with error, right? Listen, it said, look and see, for everyone is coming home. Your sons are coming from distant lands. Your little daughters will be carried home. Your eyes will shine and your heart will thrill with joy. For merchants from around the world will come to you. They will bring you the wealth of many lands. Vast caravans of camels will converge upon you. The camels of Midian and Ephah, the people of Sheba, will bring gold and frankincense and will come worshiping before Yahuwah. The flocks of Kedar will be given to you, and the rams of Nebaioth will be bought for my altars. I will accept their offerings, and I will make my temple glorious. And what do I see flying like clouds to Israel, like doves to their nest? They are ships from the ends of the earth, from the lands that trust in me, led by the great ships of Tarshish. Listen, this is still talking about us coming home. What is this? What do I see flying like clouds to Israel, like doves to their nest? This was the best way Isaiah could describe this. But in our day, we know those. What big birds carry people? Airplanes, right? He's describing it from his day. And what do I see flying like clouds to Israel, like doves to their nest? They are the ships from the ends of the earth, from lands that trust in me, from the ends of the earth, like here. They'll bring you from another part of the earth, bring you back home. They are ships from the ends of the earth, from the lands that trust in me, led by the great ships of Tarshish. They are bringing the people of Israel home from far away, carrying their gold and silver. They will honor Yahuwah, your mighty one, the Holy One of Israel, for he has filled you with splendor. Listen. Foreigners will come to rebuild your towns, and their kings will serve you. For though I have destroyed you in my anger, I would now have mercy on you through my grace. Your gates will stay open day and night and receive the wealth of many lands. The kings of the world will be led as captives in a victory procession. For the nations that refuse to serve you will be destroyed. Now think about this in current day. Is this happening for Israel? No, everybody wants to annihilate them because of what they're doing. Are their gates open? No, they're surrounded by walls, right? Their gates are closed to people. They're not letting anybody in. Like it's they take the scriptures, like I said, they flip them around and have you believe in something. But when you don't read it yourself, you are swept away in this mass belief lie, right? Foreigners will come to rebuild your towns, and their kings will serve you. For though I have destroyed you in my anger, I will now have mercy on you through my grace. Have we now seen that what JC was telling them, that was a lie? How was that fulfilled? We're still scattered, people. Your gates will stay open day and night to receive the wealth of many lands. The kings of the world will be led as captives in a victory procession. For the nation that refused to serve you will be destroyed. The glory of Lebanon will be yours. The forests of cypress, fir, and pine to beautify my sanctuary. My temple will be glorious. The descendants of your tormentors will come and bow before you. Those who despise you will kiss your feet. And we seeing that stuff happening like right now. People are realizing this and they're like, oh my goodness. We actually have videos of people of other nationalities kissing the feet of Black people, repenting for what their ancestors have done. Look, that's them that this is talking about, the descendants of your tormentors. These people that's kissing the feet of our people who are alive today, they are the descendants of our tormentors. The descendants of your tormentors will come and bow before you. Those who despise you will kiss your feet. They will call you the city of Yahuwah and Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Oh yeah, they pulling out the last stops. Dana said we can't get there with this vaccine. That's probably why they're saying we can't go to other countries without a vaccine. They're trying to keep us dispersed. When I started realizing this with this, and they making it like impossible to travel still to some places, or you got to have this. They haven't made it mandatory yet, but they're pulling out all stops, and it had to be something worldwide to affect the entire world because we are dispersed worldwide, and they know they're going to have to do it this way, otherwise we're going to all be able to get back. So they're trying to hold us back anyway, by any means necessary at this point. And I'm just sitting back eating my popcorn like that ain't gonna work. Eat my popcorn. All right, are you gonna do what you're gonna do while we sit back and watch this unfold? Like Moses saying, stand back and see the salvation of your Lord, right? That's what all we need to do. Listen. The descendants of your tormentors will come and bow before you. Those who despise you will kiss your feet. They will call you the city of Yahuwah and Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Though you were once despised and hated, with no one traveling through you, I will make you beautiful forever, a joy to all generations. Powerful kings and mighty nations will satisfy your every need as though you were a child nursing at the breast of a queen. You will know that at last that I, Yahuwah, am your savior and your redeemer, the mighty one of Israel. Listen, he said, I will exchange your bronze for gold, your iron for silver, your wood for bronze, and your stones for iron. I will make peace your leader and righteousness your ruler. Violence will disappear from your land. The desolation and destruction of war will end. Salvation will surround you like city walls, and praise will be on the lips of all who enter there. Has this happened? Has this happened? Hold on, we ain't got to that part yet, y'all. Listen. No longer will you need the sun to shine by day, nor the moon to give its light. For Yahuwah, your mighty one, will be your everlasting light, and your mighty one will be your glory. Your sun will never set. The sun will never set on Wakanda. Your sun will never set. Your moon will not go down. For Yahuwah will be your everlasting light. Your days of mourning will come to an end. All your people will be righteous. They will possess their land forever. For I will plant them there with my own hands in order to bring myself glory. What did he say? What did he say? He said, I. And who is speaking? Let's establish the authority. Who's speaking right here? This is Yahuwah, creator of heaven and earth, the mighty one of Israel, the mighty one of Yasharal, the mighty one of Yisolili, Yisael, or whatever you want to call us, right? The descendants of Jacob, us, we is these people, right? Look, and he's not saying that the sun gonna completely disappear. He's describing to us that that's what it's gonna be like to us. He said, you thought you experienced the light of the sun and the moon. He said, when I come and I set you back, he said, you ain't even going to need them no more. He said, because I am going to be your light. He said, you truly going to know what light is and what safety is when I bring you back home. Have we experienced that? Has this been fulfilled? Was it even fulfilled in their ears? I think not. Somebody been lying, and it ain't Yah, right? Because we still dispersed, and our land still lies in ruins. Zion is crying for her sons and daughters to return home. Have we returned home? Nope. They're still pulling the wool over our eyes, and they still got our people thinking that we the crazy ones, right? We not. Let me finish reading this. Hold on, look. No longer will you need the sun to shine by day, nor the moon to give its light by night. For Yahuwah, your mighty one, will be your everlasting light, and your mighty one will be your glory. Your sun will never set. Your moon will not go down, for Yahuwah will be your everlasting light. Your days of mourning will come to an end. All your people will be righteous. They will possess their land forever, for I will plant them there with my own hands in order to bring myself glory. The smallest family will become 1,000 people, and the tiniest group will become a mighty nation. At the right time, I, Yahuwah, will make it happen. And so let's jump back over to this next portion where they said that this has been fulfilled, right? And this is what JC is talking about. Now, mind you, we read that to keep all this in context, to see exactly what it was he was talking about here, right? So we just read what he was talking about, but when they was putting together this New Testament, they pull it out of context. Listen, and so here's where it jumps in, where they jump right into the middle of it so they can mind screw you and make you think something that's not true, right? And that goes, and here's what, remember what we just read, and this is where it goes on to. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, for Yahuwah has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of Yahuwah's favor has come, and with it, the day of Yahuwah's anger against their enemies. Now, let's, Dana, it said in Luke chapter 4. I know that's also in Matthew, what it say? I think it says Matthew 11, Luke chapter 4, and it's in Mark 2. Not Mark chapter 2, but it's also in Mark. I have to pull it up, but it has like, no, that says something else, but they're taking it out of context. So right here, who remember, what is this good news that they're bringing? The good news that they're bringing is not that JC is coming down the cross for their sins. The good news that they're bringing is what's in a previous chapter. The future glory for Zion and how we will be rescued from the four corners of the earth, and how Yahuwah is going to deliver us, return us to the promised land, meaning the land that we would have inherited from, and which we did inherit from our forefathers, but who has been divided up and given to every other people. Yes, Yes, Dana, Luke 4 and Matthew 11. And it's probably more places in there. Y'all, I'm sure everybody's familiar. If you read the New Testament, you know, but just go and double check that. I'll pull it up as well. And double check, and you can kind of cross-reference that stuff, right? So, but this good news is that Yahuwah is Yahuwah's covenant, right? This is his covenant. And he the same stuff, right? The same stuff that was given to our ancestors, he's giving it to us, but this time it's going to be in our hearts, right? And he's going to return us to the land that was promised to us, and we're going to be there forever. It said many generations will come. Like, the world is not going to end. We're going to die out and people go to heaven, because he's explaining. He said, no, you're going to return home. The nations are going to bring you home. So that's why I'm looking. I'm like, well, there definitely might be an invasion, because somebody got to get us back there. They brought us here. They got to help get us back. And it says the nations will bring you home. How are we returning home? Isaiah 60 tells us some returning by plane. Matter of fact, and if you jump to Isaiah 66, if I'm not mistaken, if you jump to Isaiah 66, it goes into more detail. Is it Isaiah 66? Don't quote me. I know it's in the 60s chapter. I'm almost certain it's Isaiah 66, but it goes into more detail on how we're returning home, right? And it says we're going to return by, like, it says right here, as birds in the sky and landing softly on the windowsills. Those are planes that fly in the sky and land softly on the tarmac, right? We're going to return by planes, trains, automobiles, swift beasts. It's going to be some that's a little closer, that doesn't necessarily have to take international transportation, but and it also says camels, and so it's people still riding camels today. So we're going to return by all modes of transportation, just depending on how far we are away from the place, right? That's what it says. Okay, so let me finish reading it. So that's the good news. That's the good news that he has sent Isaiah to tell the people, that Yahuwah, at this certain time, Yahuwah is going to restore his people. That's the good news. That's the news of salvation, of saving, of delivering of Yahuwah's people. Listen, the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, for Yahuwah has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted, to proclaim that captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of Yahuwah's favor has come, and with it, the day of Yahuwah's anger against their enemies. Is just like Joel speaks about, like, that great and terrible day of Yah. It's going to be great for us, but terrible for the other nations, because with his favor and his grace and his salvation to us is going to be the woe of the world, right? We're being saved and they're being destroyed, right? Same thing that happened in Egypt. It's the same thing. Israel was saved. Egypt was destroyed for what they had done. So his glory and his anger fell at the same time. Listen. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of Yahuwah's favor has come, and with it, the day of Yahuwah's great anger against their enemies. To all who mourn in Israel, he will give a crown of beauty for ashes, a joyous blessing instead of mourning, a festival of praise instead of despair. In their righteousness, they will be like great oaks that Yahuwah has planted for his own glory. They will rebuild ancient ruins. Our city, we're gonna build. The nations are gonna help us rebuild, right? All those things. They will rebuild the ancient ruins, repairing cities destroyed long ago. They will revive them, though they have been deserted for many generations. Foreigners will be your servants. They will feed your flocks and plow your fields and tend to your vineyards. You will be called priests of Yahuwah, ministers of our mighty one. You will feed on the treasures of the nations and boast in their riches. Instead of shame and dishonor, you will enjoy a double share of honor. You will possess a double portion of prosperity in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours. For I, Yahuwah, love justice. I hate robbery and wrongdoing. I will faithfully reward my people for their suffering and will make an everlasting covenant with them. Their descendants will be recognized and honored among the nations. Everyone will realize that they are a people that Yahuwah has blessed. I am overwhelmed with joy in Yahuwah, my mighty one. For he has dressed me with the clothing of salvation and draped me in a robe of righteousness. I am like a bridegroom dressed for his wedding, or a bride with her jewels. The sovereign Lord will show his justice to the nations of the world. Everyone will praise him. His righteousness will be like a garden in early spring, with plants springing up everywhere. Yo. And so he also mentioned, he said you probably should read 61 and 62 in its proper context. And so the Isaiah 62 is actually Isaiah giving a prayer. And it's 12 verses. So let's go ahead and read it because it is good. Isaiah's prayer for Jerusalem. Because I love Zion, I will not keep still. Because my heart yearns for Jerusalem, I cannot remain silent. I will not stop praying for her until her righteousness shines like the dawn and her salvation blazes like a burning torch. And what is our salvation? That Yahuwah will regather us and place us back in our land, and he's going to heal us and restore everything to us that has been taken, right? That is salvation for Yahuwah's people, and he's going to increase us, right? That's what he said. That's what true salvation is. I will not stop praying for her until her righteousness shines like the dawn and her salvation blazes like a burning torch. The nations will see your righteousness. World leaders will be blinded by your glory, and you will be given a new name by Yahuwah's own mouth. Yahuwah will hold you in his hand for all to see, a splendid crown in the hand of Yah. Never again will you be called the forsaken city or the desolate land. Your new name will be the city of Yahuwah's delight and the bride of Yahuwah. For Yahuwah delights in you and will claim you as his bride. Your children will commit themselves to you, O Jerusalem, just as a young man commits himself to his bride. Then Yahuwah will rejoice over you as a bridegroom rejoices over his bride. O Jerusalem, I have posted watchmen on your walls. They will pray day and night continually. Take no rest, all you who pray to Yahuwah. Give Yahuwah no rest until he completes his work, until he makes Jerusalem the pride of the earth. For Yahuwah has sworn to Jerusalem by his own strength, I will never again hand you over to your enemies. Never again will foreign warriors come and take away your grain and new wine. You raise the grain and you will eat it, praising Yahuwah. Within the courtyards of the temple, you yourselves will drink the wine you have pressed. Go out through the gates. Prepare the highway for my people to return. Smooth out the road. Pull out the boulders. Raise a flag for all the nations to see. Yahuwah has sent this message to every land. Tell the people of Israel, look, your Savior is coming. Woo! Boy, I'm about to get choked up. Hold on, y'all. Oh, okay. Look, whoo, look. Yahuwah has sent this message to every land. Tell the people of Israel, look, your Savior is coming. See, he brings his reward with him as he comes. They will be called the holy people and the people redeemed by Yahuwah. And Jerusalem will be known as the desirable place and the city no longer forsaken. We could end this right here. So now that we have read this in context, if we go back and look at what the New Testament is trying to teach us, we'll clearly see that something is wrong. Somebody is lying. We, even today, and this was said to them, over 2,000 years ago? We supposedly said over 2,000 years. That's what I say. Supposedly said to them over 2,000 years ago. But we today clearly know, he said, this has been fulfilled in your ears today. How so? How, Sway? How has that been fulfilled? Right? Listen. Okay, now that we've read that in context and we know what Isaiah 60, 61, and 62 says, let's continue reading this, right? Listen. Let me just go back up. It says, when Yahushua was in the congregation or the synagogue at Luke chapter 4 and read from the Tanakh, He read aloud in Hebrew the words of Isaiah 61. He told them that this prophecy had been fulfilled in their ears. He announced the fulfillment of the prophecy of the awaited Messiah as his listeners comprehended. He proclaimed the acceptable year of Yahuwah, known as the year of Jubilee. Yet we still scattered and in chains, right? Every 50th year, native born Hebrews are to be freed, and the land is to be returned to the heirs according to their tribe. How many of us got that land back? We still purchasing land with the money we done saved up. Who returned anything to us? Right? We see like little. No. Let's keep reading. He was also proclaiming the gospel, the announcement that the reign of Yahuwah had come into their midst. If you read all of Isaiah 61 and 62, as he probably did, you'll discover that it promises the day when the bridegroom will rejoice over his bride. In Matthew 11:5, where this passage of Isaiah is being quoted, the word gospel appears in our translation from the original Hebrew word basar, and it has in parentheses the letters RSB or RSB spaced out, meaning tidings, message, report, or news. You must know what the message is to carry it to others. Clearly, we know what the good news is now that we've read it, because you got to go back to chapter 6 to see what that good news is, right? You must know what the message is to carry it to others. The Hebrew word for gospel is besorah. It is ultimately the Torah, which Yahusha instructed us to go and teach to all the nations. Thus, Israel is increased as a covenant people. Gentiles who engraft through the Torah become fellow Israelites. See Ephesians 2:8-13. The reign of Yahuwah, aka Kingdom of God, is a secret. How do we know it's a secret? And then he goes at Mark 4:11 and 12. And when he was alone, those about him with the 12 asked him about the parable, and he said to them, "To you it has been given to know the secret of the reign of Yahuwah, but to those who are outside, all are done in parables, so that seeing they see but do not perceive, and hearing they hear but do not understand, lest they should turn, repent, and their sins be forgiven them." He was quoting Isaiah 6 and 9. The secret or mystery is really the gospel itself. It goes on at Romans 16:25. Now to him who is able to establish you according to my gospel, Besorah, and the preaching of, it says, Yahushua HaMashiach, according to the revelation of the mystery which has been kept secret for long ages past. So the gospel isn't something new, but was first spoken to Abraham. And it says, see Galatians 3:8 and Genesis 12:3. I'm going to read through this. We'll make a correction. Abraham was called out from among the pagans and Gentile practices and was ultimately to become a blessing to the Gentiles because of his fidelity or faithfulness or amunah. Paul had to sternly warn the Gentiles who had converted at Galatia and to those at Ephesus. Ephesians 4:17-18, he said, "This I say therefore to affirm together with Yahuwah." Now see, he pulling out the scripture, but he adding Yahuwah. You can tell he's adding in here because the scripture is bolded, but the words he added is not bolded, which is Yahuwah. But you have to be very careful at the wording of what the New Testament says, because like I said, if you're not familiar with what Yahuwah says, it'll lead you to believe that this is what Yahuwah said when it's really a play on words. And it's like it's bumping you over. It's bumping you over like a little notch, right? And if you don't recognize it before you know it, you're gonna be all the way out here. Like now we have been all the way out here believing that a righteous man can die for the sins of the wicked when we did not recognize what Yahuwah said at the beginning. And every time we didn't recognize what Yahuwah said, we got bumped over another notch and another notch. And now we steeped all the way in this stuff that we never recognized were lies. And now we're fighting to defend lies that we have grown so accustomed to love, right? And it sounds foreign and blasphemy to our ears when people like me come and say, "Hey, wait a minute, something is wrong with this." It's like, no, get out of here. This is my savior. I'm going to keep him and I'm going to worship him just like I worship the creator of heaven and earth. I'm like, let me go on about my business. I'm okay. So I just, I used to roll your eyes and keep on going. I'm just roll my eyes and keep on going. Father, wake them up. I'm going to keep on moving. All right. So look, this I say, therefore, to affirm together with Yahuwah that you no longer, and Yahuwah was actually added into this. This I say, therefore, to affirm together that you no longer walk as the Gentiles walk in the futility of their thinking, being darkened in their understanding, excluded from the life because of the ignorance that is in them, because of the hardness of their heart. And he added in Yahuwah. Right here it says, excluded from the life of Yahuwah because of the ignorance that is in them. But I think if you don't add in words to what they were saying here, you will kind of see you trying to make what they say line up with what Yahuwah is saying as you begin to read it in whole. But if you begin to add Yahuwah inside of that stuff, it's gonna continue being mixed, and you're not gonna be able to decipher truth from error, right? So you have to be really, really careful. And like I told you, I said the best way to do that, like I wasn't able to do that right off top, right? The best way, from my personal experience and the road that I walked through, was by taking time to read the Old Testament over and over and over and over again. Like I recommend anybody, if you know the New Testament, if that's all you know, and you need to go back and verify what the Old Testament says, like you can't really tell me what happened back here, I would recommend just take a year, set aside everything and just read the Old Testament over and over and over and over again, right? And it's easily done when you can get through it at least once a year by reading 3 chapters a day, right? Like we've been doing every year for like the last 3 years. This is our 3rd time reading through here. You can do it, right? I read it a little faster than this before I started doing it live, because I was reading it now. Y'all may call me super crazy, but I was getting through it in 90 days, like every 90 days, right? But I was listening to it. That's more like 11 chapters a day for 90 days. And so I was literally going through the Old Testament 4 times a year. I know some people not built like that. That's just something I can do. I don't know. I'm just able to do it. I'm able to assimilate a lot of information in a shorter period of time than some other people, because I don't know. Information is my thing. I'm able to kind of take it. I'm a researcher, y'all. So I'm not telling you got to go do what I did, but I'm just suggesting at least read through it once. Go through it 3 chapters a day, like what we're doing, because that's not everybody can read 3 chapters a day. You can even just listen to it in your ear, right? You have to get familiar with what Yahuwah actually says. And until you're able to do that and you're able to decipher who's speaking what, you're not going to be able to separate truth from error. Even if you're doing those scriptural topical studies and stuff and researching, you're linking the scriptures together, pulling all the scriptures from the Old Testament and you knew and see how because you're missing stuff in the beginning. You're missing the tone. You're missing the full context if you don't know the full story. Like somebody studies for a test and just uses the cliff note, or somebody just, let's say you're going to have to, I think this is a better way to describe it. Let's say your teacher tells you, okay, in the syllabus we're going to discuss this chapter tomorrow. We're going to discuss these chapters tomorrow. Read chapters 1, 2, and 3, right? And so you have people that they'll go and read, but you have people who will read and then they'll take notes, right? So now that you've read and now you've actually taken notes, you're prepared for this discussion, right? You're really prepared for this discussion. So whereas those who didn't go read, they're not prepared at all, and they're looking around and they're gonna try and play off what you say. Oh yeah, they're gonna try and foo-foo their way through the conversation, right? They're gonna jive their way through the conversation. But a good teacher can tell you ain't read it, did you? Because that's not what they was talking about. You trying to compare things, and they was giving a whole analogy over here, explaining something. Oh yeah, I remember when that happened. You didn't read, did you? And then you can also tell those who didn't read, hey, let me get your notes. Okay, here. I don't need them anyway. I know it, but yeah, you can take my notes. And you can clearly tell that those who borrowed somebody else's notes didn't read either. Those who just have the notes is like the ones that's doing the scripture linking the references together. You ain't read it, did you? That is not what it said. Because you came up with something they weren't even talking about. I can tell you don't really understand the context of what was going on, right? So a good teacher can really tell her students who actually have done the work, who actually read the chapters and they understood the chapters, they assimilated the chapters, they understood the gist of what was going on. They are going to be the only ones that are going to be able to have a decent, thorough conversation about this work we should have did. The ones just the cherry picking and pulling all the notes together and just the scriptures, they'll be able to hold on for a little bit. Then they're gonna have to ease, they're gonna have to shut up. Because they were like, oh, what? Hold on, that ain't what your notes said. Yeah, so you just see those were just quick notes, but you really got to understand it's like they're gonna have to back away too. And the ones that didn't do no reading, ain't got no notes, ain't read it at all, they just remain quiet the rest of the class. It's impossible for you to join in. Now you just sit and learn. You learn because you didn't do, you learning on the back end. While those who are prepared and prepared themselves, they can go on and they can interact with the teacher. And the teacher, yeah, they're gonna have to fall back. The teacher can interact with the ones who've actually been there. And they actually can prepare them for some of the things. They can even give them information that's coming ahead of time, because now you got the backstory. And I can say, you got the foundation, you got this down. Okay, so be watching for this, right? So they say, okay, so now that you understand that, be watching for this. And you'll know what I'm talking about when you get to it. This is exactly what's happening with scriptures, right? We can tell those ones clearly don't know what it said. You off in la la land trying to make it, no, see, this is what happened. He coming back to get us and we're going to heaven. What? What are you talking about? No, we're going to be swooped up out of here on spaceships to talk about the chariots. You ain't read, did you? You ain't even talked to nobody with notes, have you? Right? So now when you're doing this, you're just like looking at people. Then the one with the notes, oh, no, see, because I went, no, because this is what it said. The ones that's doing the scripture, no, this is what it said. Boom, boom, tell me. I'm like, you don't get it. You didn't read it either. All you did was take somebody's notes and you was like the last minute before class start, teacher, hold on. Wait, was she coming down the hall? Okay, let me just gotta write down a couple more things. I'm looking at this. Okay, boom. You ain't prepared either. You got stuff in front of you, but you have no clue how this interacts throughout the entire story, right? This is exactly what's happening with those who have taken time and read through the story. They've got intimate with the characters and who they worship, who their enemies were, the family feuds, what's going on, everybody that's named the same, and how they speak and all the different names. There are those in here who have different names. Think about us, y'all. I got different nicknames, right? It just depends on who in your family is talking to you. Even King Solomon had different names, right? And you'll find that we saw how the Legends of the Jews brought that out. Depending on who was talking to him, they addressed him by different things. But those who in the family, they were like, well, who is that person? Oh, that's King Solomon. Oh, that's King Solomon. All this time, that was King Solomon. They were talking about, yeah, that's what his granddaddy called him, right? So it's like me. My name is Pamela. Some people call me Pam for short, right? Just like Yahuwah, sometimes we call him Yah for short, right? And sometimes, depending on who talking to me, maybe my husband, sweetheart, baby. You know, if somebody outside the family, if he say, yeah, my sweetheart, clearly, okay, somebody intimate, but they can't pinpoint who that person is. Or my children call me mom. Okay, there's a lot of people out here called mom, but they can't pinpoint who that is unless you know who this person is. Then you know, oh, I know your family, so I know who you're talking about when you say mom or when you say baby, right? It's the same way. Guys, everything that Yahuwah is trying to teach us, we're literally intimate with the details, even in our own personal lives, if we would just pay attention. There is nothing too hard that we cannot understand. Everything we need to know is literally happening in our very own life. If we're able to fuse it all together and see it come to life in our own families, right? And there are other nicknames. Some sister call me PJ Sparkles. Aunts and uncles and friends call me Pamela Lamb. Just different things, right? Military people who know me from military know me by my last name. Before I was married, it was James. After married, they know me by Murphy, right? It's me. It's always me, right? But somehow that understanding gets chopped and screwed when it comes down to the story. Okay, thanks, babe. When it comes down to our story as we're reading it in the scriptures, and you're not able to tell, okay, this is not family business. Somebody added this. Who was this? Their family didn't do this. Who is this? This is not how they live. This was added. Somebody added this. This ain't even a tone, right? So it's just like that, y'all. So I hope I made that really clear. So when we're reading through If you decide to continue reading through the New Testament, I ain't saying chuck everything all together, but at least do your homework. Take the time and do your homework. Yes, it's everywhere. The truth is everywhere in plain sight, and lies are everywhere, doing everything trying to cover your eyes and keep you from the truth, right? But it's us. It's us doing our own due diligence, right? So we can see the truth. Oh yeah, we had an hour and 4 minutes. Okay. So let me go back up here. Okay. They were just overwhelmed by the pagan patterns of everyday living. When Paul stood before the Greek idolaters in Athens, he stood as Jonah had in Nineveh. Therefore, having overlooked the times of ignorance, Yahuwah is now declaring to men that all everywhere should repent, because he has fixed the day in which he will judge the world in righteousness through a man whom he has appointed, having furnished proof to all men by raising him from the dead. Did Yahuwah say anything about this? Did he say anything about this? See, this is what I'm saying. If you don't know even a lot of this stuff that Paul says, it's like it's really suspect. A lot of people is taught, and you see it in the scripture. Oh, wasn't this the one that persecuted the Christians? They were scared of Paul. They thought he was just trying to blend in now and trying to use craft to deceive them. There were some who still didn't trust Paul all the way to the end. And I would say I would have been one of them people who didn't trust Paul all the way to the end. No matter what he did and what he said, it's like now you're using craft and you're twisting words, because you have to understand who these guys were. All these people who they were very well, they were skilled in the law, so they were able to twist words and to twist people up, right? Yahuwah tells us about all this. He warns us about all of this. Even people who are able to perform miracles for you, he said, don't get twisted by this. Even by those who perform signs and wonders and miracles for you, because that's what takes a lot of people too. Well, I seen this and the Lord did this for me. Can you verify that was him? Right? Is this the main thing that's keeping you stuck on worshiping multiple gods because of what was done for you? Right? Not saying what was done for you was bad, but you have to be careful. And if that's all you hang on all the time is sign, wonders, and miracles, you're easy prey. You are easy prey, because all we got to do is show you something and then you boom, right? But blessed be those who haven't seen and believe. Right? Not that we believe blindly, but that we know who Yah is and we know what he says. You ain't fooling us. Go on, get out of here with that. You staying? Well, we leaving. Goodbye. You will not infiltrate our ranks any further. We're out of here, right? It's crazy. Let's see. Sometimes I listen to the 3 chapters you read again throughout the day, and I hear something new. And same thing be happening to me, Dana. Yeah. Believe it or not, Paul was just on my mind, and you just spoke about him. Wow. Yeah, I'm telling you, girl, Paul, let me say it like this. Paul is a character. When you see what Yahuwah has said, you're going to find out just how much of a character Paul truly is. And it's just like, ooh, people not paying attention to this. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it literally is. It's like, it's like the parables and stuff they use. They keep on speaking to them, but you speaking, they're not going to understand and they're not going to be able to hear, right? Because if you don't have the foundation of what Yahuwah said, there's nothing there to break your state from the lies, and nothing that's going to throw up red flags for you. That's I can. You can have that? Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead and open. I'm almost done. So, where we at? 108. Okay, let me finish reading this, and then where we at? 108. I'm gonna finish reading this. It's this last little section. We're gonna just go through it, and then we're gonna end here. Okay. They were just overwhelmed by the pagan patterns of everyday living. When Paul stood before the Greek idolaters in Athens, he stood as Jonah had in Nineveh. Therefore, having overlooked the times of ignorance, Yahuwah is now declaring to men that all everywhere should repent, because he has fixed the day in which he will judge the world in righteousness through a man whom he appointed, having furnished proof to all men by raising him from the dead, right? That's Acts chapter 17. But Yahuwah didn't do that, right? Yahuwah said he alone, and the person that he is going to raise up as a deliverer, like he did with Moses and with all the different deliverers and Esther, they weren't dead and came back to life. There was that he didn't need to use somebody that had already gone to the grave, or somebody that y'all see that when you go through and you really understand what Yahuwah says. He speaks against all this stuff. It's an actual flip-flop of what Yahuwah said. The reign of Yahuwah will be to most like a trap springing shut and catch the majority by complete surprise. They are in a Roman system, ignorant of the annual observances they are taught are Jewish. Weekly Sabbath, Passover, Shavuot is Pentecost, Yom Teruah, which is trumpets, Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, and Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, tents or booths or shelters, whatever you want to call it. All picture the redemption of Yahuwah's bride, but they are kept from the knowledge of the plan and what to watch for. Paul explains it is a mystery to the Ephesians at 6:19, and pray on my behalf that utterance may be given to me and the opening of my mouth to make known with boldness the mystery of the, and it has gospel in parentheses, the mystery of the gospel. See also Ephesians 3, verses 3 through 9. In Colossians 1, Paul states his goal is that I might fully carry out the preaching of the word. And he added Yahuwah in here. The mystery of that which has been hidden from the past ages and generations, but has now been manifested in his Kodeshim, or his set apart ones or saints, to whom Yahuwah, he added Yahuwah, to whom will to make known what is the riches of the esteem of this secret among the Gentiles. And in parentheses, he added in the Torah written on your hearts, which is Mashiach in you. Mom. And by saying this like this,
what's that press?
Do you put water in it? How much water do you put in it? Take it out. Put the water. Let me see. Put some more water in there. Put a little bit more water in there.
Mom,
okay, just put it on 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yep, just hit 3 and press start. Okay. And he added this in, which is the secret. Okay. Press stop.
This?
Yep. Now press 3.
This one?
Yes. Now press start. Okay. And he added in here, he said, with the secret among the Gentiles, and he said, which is Mashiach in you, you know, they say Christ in you, the hope of glory. Shalom, Mom. It's the spirit of Yah in us, right? Because it's the play on words. When you Mashiach to Hebrews and Mashiach to Christians, they're thinking of two totally different people. Hebrews, when you say Mashiach or Messiah, they're thinking about Yah and Yah alone. When you're talking to the Christians, even those who have come out and they're transitioning, a lot of times, even those they still got Christian mindsets, although they're transitioning, some things still haven't broken off their mind. So you can still call them Christians, right? They're like Hebrew Christians or Messianics. That's the proper word, Messianics, right? That's the proper term. When you say Mashiach to them and Mashiach to true Hebrews, not saying that some of them aren't, because they're still transitioning, coming out of the lies. But get what I'm saying? They have two different mindsets. You can say Mashiach and everybody will have a different thought about who you're talking about. That's how we have to be very, very specific. We have to do away with all these these English terms that have just like the word meat, and meat. Like, you eat meat, I'm gonna meet you at a place and we're gonna mete out punishment. Meat, and meat. Depending on how you're using it and who you're talking to, they're gonna get 3 different interpretations, right? You got those who are completely ignorant of the conversation, didn't do their study. You got those that just got notes doing scripture study, and you got those who read it, right? And wait a minute, hold on, they playing with y'all, you know. It's like that. So when you add this stuff in here, like Mashiach in you, Christians think Jesus Christ. Although they're not calling him Jesus Christ now, they're calling him Yeshua, Yehoshua, YAHUAH. This is still what they're thinking. They're not thinking Yahuwah alone. Yahuwah who will send a human deliverer, right? Somebody here in our realm who he will raise up and train. Somebody who has gone through the same things that we have gone through And they just think about it. It's always been that way. It's always been somebody from the current generation who has gone through the current thing that we have gone through, who understand, and we're there. And you got your people like, you ain't no better than us. Who is you? That's what they did to Moshe, to Moses. Even though he was in Pharaoh's house for a minute, he was separated from there for a period of time, right? And so it's like, gosh, y'all, it's stuff in plain sight that you're missing, and you're arguing over words that it's a mess. It's a complete mess, right? And so you have to be careful. That's why I don't like to use the word Mashiach at all anymore. Even like the word salvation, because it's in the same thing. Because when you say salvation to Christians, they think about something different than what those who worship Yahuwah alone. When we hear salvation, Yahuwah alone is going to save us. When you say salvation and Christian, Jesus Christ coming to get us. So Yahuwah, I mean not Yahuwah, Yahusha, Yeshua. I get what I'm saying? So you have to be careful, right? And he's going on, finish reading this, which is Mashiach in you, the expectancy of esteem, whom we announce, warning every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, Torah, commandments, in order to present every man perfect in Mashiach, Yahusha, right? We shouldn't be presented in another man's name. Yahuwah specifically talks about this. Yahuwah said, if we're going to be made perfect, the only way we're going to be made perfect is in the instructions that Yahuwah laid out. He was the creator of these bodies, the creator of this world and this atmosphere. Here's how this is made to operate in this place, right? Do it according to these directions, and everybody live and thrive. Everything will be good, right? Not in anybody else's name, right? Paul's reference to Mashiach in you indicates that the believer is given, okay, I'm going to just read it. Paul's reference to Mashiach in you indicates that the believer is given power to love the Torah and thus obey it, Yahuwah's word, because his seed, the commandments, came into the Nazarene, literally fulfilling Jeremiah 31, implementing the renewed covenant. See, it's a mix of words. It's like half true and it's half not true, y'all. But this is the covenant which I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yahuwah. I will put my Torah within them and on their heart, and on their heart I will write it. True. That's what Yahuwah said. That is exactly what the new covenant is, that he's going to put it there, right? But they're adding stuff. They said the only way this can get in there is if you accept JC. I'm like, this is not. We can just totally just accept it from Yahuwah straight. No chaser. We don't need that, right? And that's how they add me in the mixation, right? It's like, oh, in Jesus Christ, I live, I move, and have not. No, what? No, how? No. Just Yahuwah alone. You don't need that added stuff to it, right? And that's exactly what Yahuwah talks about. And I ain't gonna say he complains, but he constantly kept reiterating that over and over and over again. He said this was the desire of their hearts. They kept adding the stuff. He said, I accepted none of it. Their sacrifices and all this, the oblations, everything they added. I didn't want any of it. I simply wanted obedience. Just follow the instructions I gave you to live here, right? Okay, Bella, turn it down a little bit. This prophecy is quoted at Hebrews 10:16 and 2 Corinthians 3:3, and it first occurred at Pentecost, the commanded convocation called Shabuoth, which commemorates the giving of Torah at Sinai. Like I said, he could have left out all these in Hebrews and Corinthians and just took it straight from the Old Testament. No chaser. Give it to him straight. Because if you keep adding this and mixing this and you trying to explain in some way to make this make sense, but all this other stuff is wrong about it, you keep people off and you keep them wrong. Paul is quoted very often by today's preachers when they need to justify their freedom from the commandments, making sin more of a state of the heart than a tangible, definable thing. Sin is definable because First John, everyone who sins breaks Torah. In fact, sin is lawlessness, antinomia, lawlessness, right? So you can thoroughly see a mix of everything. Like in John, it says this, and this, but then you need to add this to fix this. No, people know. Like, if you can see it, you can't unsee it, y'all. And that's why I'm like, you know what? I ain't telling you to scrap the whole thing, but you really don't need it for real in order to walk in the power and the truth of Yah. Because according to what it says, that's all that they had as well. But they're twisting what they had, right? Everyone who sins breaks the Torah. In fact, sin is lawlessness or without the law of Yah. or without the Torah of Yah. Antinomia, lawlessness. And it says, Yahusha came to destroy the devil's work in us. And John goes on at 3:9 saying, no one who is born of Yahuwah will continue to sin because Yahuwah's seed remains in him. He cannot go on sinning because he has been born of Yahuwah. Right? So see how that, right? How he even kind of mixing words, like some of the stuff, he just needs to explain this without keep adding in JC. It said, Yahusha came to destroy the devil's work in us. And John went on to say, like, how did he come to destroy the work when what Yahuwah said it was made perfect and he was going to give it to us again, just like it was. So if he's going to give the same thing to us, just like he gave to our ancestors, what point did JC serve? Like, why was he even added if Yahuwah was giving us the same thing over? And he didn't add JC to it either. Like, after y'all done with all this foolishness, y'all go through all this JC, adding them, mix them and everything. When y'all done, I'm going to give y'all the same thing. Do it just like I told you to do it the first time. Just like I told your ancestors. Y'all see? This is how we know who the children of Yahuwah are and who the children of the devil are. Anyone who does not do what is right is not a child of Yahuwah, nor is anyone who does not love his brother. 2 Peter 3:15-16 discusses how this lawlessness was being propagated by distortions of Paul's writings. And we're going to pause right here. I didn't realize there was a little break right here. So we're going to pause right here because my background started to get loud and everybody is up. So we're going to pause right here. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. I hope y'all understood the examples I was trying to explain to you. Yes, baby.
I just did all this up.
Okay, thank you so much, sweetie.
And I write the right here.
Okay, so that being said, y'all, if y'all need to listen to it again, listen to it again. If you got the book, go through, read it again. Go back every time you see something in the New Testament and it said, thus has been fulfilled, or what was said back here is being fulfilled in your ears today. Go back and read that. Don't just read that one verse that it gave you that said, this verse right here is fulfilled right here. Don't do that. That's how you get off. Go back, and I'm going to give you the advice my mama gave me when I was a little girl, when she was teaching us how to study the Bible. She said, always read 2 chapters, the 2 chapters preceding and the 2 chapters after to give you the full context. And in some instances, you have to read like 3 or 4 chapters because it spans, and a lot of times, especially in Isaiah, especially, what is it? When they're talking about, King Hezekiah and that whole one, when they, instead of just saying King Hezekiah, like they did his father's name, his grandfather's name, and his great-grandfather's name. They said his great-grandfather's name, they said his grandfather's name, then they said his father's name. But when they got to King Hezekiah, because he was next in succession to the throne, instead of just saying Hezekiah's name like he did the 3 preceding kings, they expanded the definition of his name. And now that's being taken like Mighty Counselor, Wonderful, Prince of Peace and stuff. And it takes you off and have you believe in something else. Oh, yes, he's the Prince of Peace. My G, they was talking about Hezekiah. They expanded the definition of his name. King Hezekiah was the Prince of Peace. During his reign, there was peace, right? And how do we know? And with that right there, you have to read the preceding, I want to say 4 chapters preceding and 3 or 4 chapters after to realize, wait a minute, all this time they said this person was coming down the line. Like they say, oh, this was JC who was coming, this was a foreshadowing. You can't see that until you go back those many chapters to see how this is leading up. Yahuwah said there's going to be a king coming down the line and he's going to be a Prince of Peace doing his rule. This is going to happen. He's going to be a wonderful counselor, and all these things. And then if you go back and if you put all the pieces of the reign of King Hezekiah together, you will see what Yahuwah said happened during the reign of King Hezekiah. And that Prince of Peace, that mighty counselor, when you break down Hezekiah's name, you will see that all this referred to him, that 4th one in succession to the throne from the 3 previous kings, which was his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all didn't do the reading in the syllabus, did you? I get so excited about this. Truth is amazing to me. So y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. Matter of fact, I'm going to put that in there. I know I shared that a couple times before, but I'm going to add that in there today so y'all can go and read this about King Hezekiah. I'm going to put the notes in there. I got them. Look, watch this video. Look, I'm going to give y'all my notes. But some people, y'all might just take the notes and try and look, read this. But if they weren't here, if you're going to give them the notes and you're going to read the notes, watch this video, then you have to go read it in context. So you have everything and you don't just have my notes. You go try to talk to somebody like, wait a minute, hold on. What does note mean? And you didn't write the notes. So I'm telling you how to do it. If you're going to take it and you're going to share them notes, and whoever you're going to share with, have them watch the video. And then make sure they read all them chapters in context so they can see, oh, snap. This was King Hezekiah. How could we, like anybody who's done the reading would never get that chopped and screwed. This was not a foreshadowing of JC, Jesus, whatever you want to call them, with your Messianic, Christian, Hebrew roots, whatever. You won't get that screwed up. Not saying that Yahuwah can't, and some people start trying to hit you, well, this could be spiritual and physical. Yahuwah can reveal it on multiple different levels. You can get one interpretation I get. Yeah, true. But let's keep this in context, right? Let's keep this in context of what is being said. Quit trying to mind screw people, but let's keep this in its proper context. Then once we understand the proper context of this, if you want to go to further revelations and all that stuff without prostituting the original text and what it originally means, then we can do that, right? Because even further revelations that Yahuwah give you from the base understanding of everything, it's not going to defile it or touch it to defile it in any way, right? And so that's what you will understand as you go through and you start reading all of this, and it'll help you keep yourself balanced and on track, right? And this is so good, y'all. So, but that being said, I'm glad y'all hanging out today. We read the last 3 chapters of Esther today. Esther 8, 9, and 10. So remember, we're going to actually go back to the Apocrypha tomorrow and read the book of Esther out of there. And it's going to have all the missing pieces of what they didn't add in here. This is just like literally a summary of the bigger story. And even that in Apocrypha is a summary of the bigger story, which we can read some of those portions also in the Legends of the Jews. Remember the Legends of the Jews? If you get it, remember what's in the Legends of the Jews is actually a compilation of all the scrolls that they found in all the different nations with all these stories. But mind you, that's not everything. They only compiled in that book what the like information was that all the nations had that was exactly the same. And a lot of that stuff is missing from the Apocrypha and also from the Bible. But it was well-known knowledge to other nations. Like some things that, as we just finding out here, like the other nations knew this. It is common to them. When we were talking about, oh, no, that's witchcraft, that's witchery. What does that know? No, all the other nations know. This is like, we're the newcomers. We're the Johnny-come-latelys to all this information. Like, y'all didn't know that? Like, our mama, that was like a nursery rhyme our mama sung to us when we was babies on her breast, right? That's literally how it is. Like, we're the ones, it's like, what? We're the last ones to know, right? So, but as I said, you keep reading, it gets quite interesting, you know. So, y'all, it is Sunday, June the 13th, 2021, day 179 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count, day 848. That is without the Sabbath days or the feast days, Sabbath days added into the count. Why? Because Yahuwah told us to rest, and we rest on those days. So remember, with this moon cycle, for this month, remember the new moon was spotted on Friday. So the Sabbaths shift back to Fridays, right? So everybody by default now, whether you're Messianic, Yahuwah only, Christian, no, Christians still doing it on Sunday, but some of them, they'll observe both. Like some of them have Sunday service and Shabbat services at their church. They trying, y'all. They trying. People really trying to wake up. It's information and misinformation catching them every which way they going. They trying to get it right. So we praying for our brothers and sisters. Like, Father, wake them all up, right? But we have to uncover the lies in order for you guys to see the truth, right? And I'm not the only one. I'm probably the Johnny come lately on the scene. There's been people for years been trying to tell you this, right? You know, so I'm just like, yo, Yahuwah's truth will stand firm as a pillar, and it will be your anchor at all times. You hold on, even if you swing, just don't let go of Yah. Hold on only to Him, and then while you're holding on only to Him, He'll guide you. He will keep you, even if you're getting off here. Whatever He got to do to get true to you, whether it's a dream or He's bringing it here or a vision or whatever, He's going to give it to you, and it's going to help you put the pieces together. So That being said, y'all, let's do the blessing. Let's do the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take the Nazarite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Oh, something else. I meant to say this earlier, and I may have mentioned it. I know I mentioned it in another one. It's about Yahuwah's name. Remember the other day, last couple of days, I was telling you, pay attention to how much Yahuwah talks about his own name and doing everything in his own name. But also think about and that's something I noticed too in the New Testament, they literally wanted to annihilate the apostles. Although there's a bunch of mixery and stuff back there, they were now that I'm saying it out loud and hearing what I'm saying, they kind of switch it a little bit. Yahuwah is jealous about his name in the Old Testament, but they were beating the disciples. They said, speak no more in this man's name, right? They kept saying the name of JC, right? But back in the Old Testament, Yahuwah was constant and he was adamant about his own name. Do everything in my name alone, right? So I just wanted to bring it up. So I'm just trying to help y'all see as many things that you can see so you can begin to compare, like, why are all these things? And like, this goes, why is this flip-flop? Because it is. And by you being able to recognize all of those things that are flip-flopping and a direct opposite of what Yahuwah said, it should get the juices flowing a little bit more. But like, wait a minute, it should really bug the crap out of you that make you, hold on, let me go look up this. Because what did Yahuwah say? That's what got me, right? It really started bugging me. I'm like, this is opposite. I know this is opposite because I just read this today, and this is what Yahuwah said. They said it backwards from what he said, and it'll have you and be like, okay, why is this like this? Why does it seem like they are violating everything Yahuwah said? So I'm putting these out. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Because they are, right? Like somebody said before, and I like to repeat it. He said the New Testament should really be called the New Test to see if you are going to listen to y'all. Yahuwah, that's what Yahuwah said. I'm gonna test you. To see, he said, and if these things come, he said, I don't care if the prophecies come to pass. I don't care if it's signs, wonders, and miracles, and it looks amazing. He said, but I'm testing you. That's what it said. I believe it's Deuteronomy 13 or Deuteronomy chapter 18. He said, I am testing you to see if you are going to be obedient to me. Y'all go check that out. Go check that out. And keep all of that. Think about everything that Yahuwah says, right? His voice is a good guide as you navigate through the scriptures that has all this garbage added into it, right? So I done enough talking for today, y'all. I got to get out of here. Kids is up and they're about to start getting loud. Y'all know y'all hear them in the background. All right, y'all. With that being said, I love y'all. I'll add those couple things in here. Just give me a few moments to get it all uploaded and stuff after I get them straight. But anyway, y'all, see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Shatera, thank you for joining. Everybody that hung out with me today. I see y'all back here tomorrow. If you can join, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.